Good morning, dear students. We are starting a new uh, topic in the chapter hand complex. So today we'll be discussing about we already completed the extrinsic finger flexors. So we'll be today looking into extrinsic finger extensors. The extrinsic finger extensors are the extensor digitorum communis, the extensor indicis proprius, and the extensor digitae minime muscles. So three muscles are there. Extensor indicis proprius supplies a extensor tendon to the index finger. You can see here the six tendons are visible in this figure. These are the one, two, three, four tendons of these are the one, two, three, and four tendons of the extensor digitorum communis. The extensor digitorum communis tendons are present for all the four fingers. And then you have for this is the index finger, which is supplied by the extrinsic finger extensor, which is what we call as extensor indicis proprius, and then the little finger has the extensor digitae minime. Each of these muscles passes from the forearm to the hand beneath the extensor retinaculum. Here you can see the extensor retinaculum. They are passing beneath the extensor retinaculum, which maintains proximity of the tendons to the joints and improves the excursion efficiency. Whenever we have a retinaculum, it is to improve the to maintain the tendons towards proximal, close to the joint, so that it improves the efficiency of contraction. Each of these six tendons, that is four tendons of EDC and two tendons of the EIP and EDM, contained within the compartment of the extensor retinaculum and is enveloped by an isolated bursa or tendon sheath that generally ends soon as the tendons emerges distal to the extensor retinaculum. At approximately the level of metacarpal, after the it passes over the extensor retinaculum, just proximal to the wrist joint, and then it enters the tendons entering the MCP joint. The extensor digitorum communis tendon of each finger merges with an aponeurosis. Aponeurosis, always it is to spread the action of the tendon, also to make it, to allow the tendons to be, like a sheath, like a broad aponeurosis, known interchangeably as the extensor expansion. So the EDC tendon forms into a broad aponeurosis, otherwise called as extensor expansion. Three names are given. One is extensor expansion, or the dorsal hood, or the extensor hood. All three are same. The name can be extensor expansion, dorsal hood, that is posterior hood, or extensor hood. The extensor indicis proprius and extensor digitae minime tendons insert into extensor digitorum communis tendons of the index and little fingers. So even though we are talking as if the EDC and the EIP and EDM are separate muscles, but you have to understand that the attachment is together. The EDC tendon also gives attachment to the EIP and the EDM tendons. So when we are biomechanically speaking, these tendons are similar. The biomechanical action are similar. Given the attachment of the EIP and EDM tendons to the EDC structure, the EAP and EDM muscles add independence of action to the index and ring fingers rather than to the other than additional actions. So only reason is because there is a separate muscle or tendon for index and ring, index and the ring finger. That means there is an additional action, that is little finger actually, not the ring finger. Index and the index finger, indicis proprius, and little finger is a digitae minime. So this will give a bit of independence from the EDC in doing extension for these fingers alone. The tendons of the EDC, EIP, and EDM muscles show a good deal of variability on the dorsum of the hand. Most of the time, the index finger has one EDC tendon leading to extensor hood and one extensor indicis proprius tendon inserting into the hood on the ulnar side of the EDC tendon. The middle and ring fingers do not have any. So middle and ring fingers do not have any axillary extensor muscle. They only have the EDC tendon. The EDC tendons of one finger may be connected with. So here the only thing to remember is that because there is separate tendon for index finger and little finger, these fingers have independence in extension movement. Another thing to remember is there is something called as junctura tendina, which are the it's like a tendinous sheath connection between the tendons of the EDC. So this junctura tendina, for example, if you see the previous figure, you can see this. These junctura, these are so these four tendons of EDC are connected to each other by what we call as junctura tendina. So junctura tendina, because of their presence, what will happen? The EDC, even though there's a tendons of separately supplying to each finger, but when the action comes, they act together. So these fibrous interconnections are junctura tendina, frequently visible along with the extensor tendons or the dorsum of the hand, cause active extension of one finger to be accompanied by. When you extend one finger, normally there is a tendency to extend other fingers also. You try in your hand, my dear students. If you try to extend one finger, naturally there is a possibility of the passive extension of other fingers. It is because of the junctura tendina, which gives passive tension to the other EDC muscles also, with patterns of interdependence. So there is a interdependence. They are not independent, varying with the connections. In general, the EDC, EIP, EDM, and junctura tendina connections result in the index fingers having most independent action, singular action. If you see, that's why we commonly use our index finger. It is very easy to use our index finger to extend rather than use the middle finger or the ring finger. So that's why the reason is because the other here we have a strong EIP muscle, indicis proprius. So other tendons, when we are using, because of the junctura tendina, the independence is comparatively less. There is interdependence because of the junctura tendina giving passive tension to the proximal other tendons. That is the EDC tendons. The EDC, EIP, and EDM are the only muscles capable of extending the MCP joints of the fingers. These muscles extend the metacarpophalangeal joint via their connection to extensor hood and sagittal bands that we have seen as in the figure earlier, interconnect the volar plates and the EDC tendons or extensor hood. In the earlier chapter, when we have discussed about the extrinsic finger flexors, we saw the role of volar plates. The volar plates, how they are attaching to the sagittal bands of the EDC. Even though volar plates belong to the flexor part compartment, but their attachment to the sagittal band of the EDC has a very important role in the extensor hood also. Now we are talking about the extensor hood, so extensor expansion. So here also the volar plates have a particular role to play. Active tension on the extensor hood from one or more of these muscles will extend the metacarpophalangeal joint, even though there are no direct attachments to the proximal phalanx. The extrinsic extensors are also wrist extensors. You have to understand that the extrinsic extensors also do play a role in the wrist extensions by continued action, because of the EIP EDM muscles share innervation, insertion function with the EDC muscle. See, the innervation, insertion, function all are similar for EIP and EDM muscles, same as the EDC muscle. So because of that, all the together they also have a role in wrist extension also. Now you can see here, see students, here this is the EDC tendon. So this is a sagittal view you are seeing, and in that is side view, and EDC tendon is coming, and here they form are covered by the extensor. This is aponeurosis, what we calling as extensor expansion or dorsal hood or extensor hood. Then they don't go as a single tendon. They form into two lateral bands. See, two lateral bands and one central band. The central band do not cross to the DAP joint. They are attaching to the proximal phalanx itself. But the lateral band here, you can see they are traveling laterally and attaching to the terminal tendon. When they come, they go laterally, but they come together to form the same tendon together to attach to form the similar tendon, and which is called as a terminal tendon attaching to the distal phalanx. See, this is a proximal phalanx, the central. So the EDC passing through the extensor expansion. Here you can see the extensor expansion, and then you see the sagittal band. They split into sagittal band, and then they form the lateral band here of the EDC, and then the central band, which is not visible because it is under the extensor expansion, attaching to the proximal phalanx here. It will be attaching somewhere here. And now so the EDC tendon, central tendon attaching here. You can see the central tendon attaching here, just the outside the extensor expansion. So here it is attaching here, then the lateral band coming and attaching here. And inside that, the proximal phalanx, you can see the very important ligament, triangular ligament or oblique retinacular ligament also. And these two muscles which you are seeing are the other very important part of the finger flexors. Actually, they are the part of the flexor compartment, but they act as a have a passive mechanism in extensor expansion. The two muscles are interossei muscles and the lumbricals. The lumbricals they are part of the flexor compartment, but in turn act as the extensor muscle of the both the metacarpophalangeal joint and the interphalangeal joints. We'll discuss about that. Distal to the extensor hood, and therefore after the EIP and EDM tendons have joined the EDC tendon. So you can see that here when we are talking about the distal to the hood, when the EDC, they already joined with the EIP and EDM muscles. Uh, the splits into three bands. So three bands, one central tendon, and then two the central tendon which inserts on the base of middle phalanx. The two lateral bands which rejoins as the terminal tendon. They are rejoining again after splitting, and then forming the terminal tendon to insert into the base of the distal phalanx. So very important figure. You have to learn to draw this to explain this during your examination. Although tension on the hood can produce metacarpophalangeal joint extension, the central tendon and terminal tendon distal to the extensor expansion cannot be tightened sufficiently by the extrinsic extensor muscles. So that means that even though they are splitting and they are efficiently attaching to the proximal as well as distal phalanx, they alone cannot produce PIP and DIP joint extension. So that for that they need the support of two interossei muscles as well as the lumbricals. In order to also produce active IP extension, the EDC muscle requires assistance of two intrinsic muscles. So here we have only three extrinsic muscles. So two intrinsic muscles, mainly the interossei and the lumbricals, also have to play a major role so that there can be active strong IP extension. The EDC tendon and all its complicated active and passive interconnections at and distal to the metacarpophalangeal joint are known together as extensor mechanism. Now we did discuss about the extensor hood. Now you understood what is the extensor mechanism of the hand. So extensor mechanism means extensor tendon and all its complicated active and passive interconnections. That means the junctura tendina, the EIP, the EDM, along all those, and the distal to MP joint are together known as. So distal to MP joint are known as. So you have the junctura tendina and the ligaments which are also present, known as the extensor mechanism, along with the passive factor which is from the interossei and the lumbricals muscles. Okay. Now next part we will learn understand more about the extensor mechanism. Okay.